What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan.
How's it going?
And to my left, Zachary Parks.
Good morning.
Good morning to you as well.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Robin Williams.
Okay.
Talked about this one before.
Yeah, we've done this. Deja vu.
It's just so
I remember this
iconic,
episode.
we can't let it go.
I know.
We should try doing an episode word for word for like.
An old episode? Oh my God, that'd be so hard. How do we
Would
do
be.
that? We'd have to spend months preparing.
Yep.
Oh my
It'd be
God.
totally useless. Like, why would they do that?
We should go back and like do all the episodes that we don't have video for and record video versions for it.
Yeah. Jarrett's like demands
Oh my
it.
God.
You're just a dictator.
It's gotta be the same, coherent across all platforms. We have video from episodes 30 on. We have to have video from episodes 1 to 30.
We're redoing 1 through 30.
That'd be terrible.
Yeah.
I would not want to do that.
I could. It would be fun to revisit an old episode.
It
and
would.
see if our answers change.
Just
I don't know.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
But in case you did not know, Team Chat Podcast, God, is a video game podcast where we talk about games, the ones we love, the ones we hate, and everything in between. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do that by sending us an email at teamchatpodcast@gmail.com, following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and subscribing to our YouTube and iTunes channels. If you want to support the show, you can do that as well by going to patreon.com/teamchatpodcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can support the show, and in return, we'll give you a cool perk like getting the episode early before its general Tuesday release. Now, we do have a winner of the song contest from last week. I gave the hint, Heroes Never Die.
Toughie.
It was a toughie. But Dylan Biles emerged the victor.
Overwatch?
with Overwatch as
Surely
being...
it's Overwatch.
I feel like my hint would have been, I need healing.
That's true, too. That would have been a good one. I was trying to think of a more obscure... because I wanted it to be a voice line. I didn't want it to be just like assemble your heroes and
good sir.
Or something really simple like that. So I was like, I'll do a voice line, but not to get off topic too much. But Doomfist is finally here, so that's cool.
Everyone seems to like.
I'm excited. I'm waiting for him to get off the PTR servers and get onto the PS4 version,
like
so I can give him
exciting.
some playtime. But
my fighting game friend says it's just a fighting game character they introduced into.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, they just like he said some term that's just like a fighting game, like a swoop smash or swoop.
Yeah, he's got like an uppercut, which then like goes into a slamming fist thing, something like that.
It's, it's very fighter game oriented, and I was like, okay, yeah, never.
I'm excited to play him. So hopefully he gets to the PS4 servers soon.
I'm betting by the end of the month. Usually, if it's on the PTR, it's just going to be like a couple of weeks before he's out, I think.
Yep.
It's a good name.
It is
Yeah,
a good name.
he's a cool character, too.
He does. I watched his origin story thing on
which was cool because it was
it's like anime style.
I was like, wow, we finally made it to anime.
I love that they are exploring, like we've talked about this, but I do like they're outside the video game world creating these characters and having them in other mediums besides the game, which I also kind of hate. Yeah. I love and hate it because I also want to experience that in the game.
Right.
Right.
Because now you got to go read the comics and all the other stuff to keep up on the lore.
Yeah.
I mean, Overwatch is a great game. One of the biggest complaints is if you're just playing the game, you don't have any of that character backstory at all.
You don't.
I mean, it's basically just a fighting game where you've got your roster and that's kind of it.
Put it in the game.
Yeah.
I feel like they're doing a better job of that, but through voice line interactions and stuff like that, So the one other thing I'll say about Overwatch is I meant to send it to you guys yesterday when I saw this, but somebody made a fan made trailer of a trailer for an Overwatch TV series on Netflix.
Oh wow!
And I was watching it and I was like, oh my God,
that'd be a good idea.
Like was getting goosebumps.
Wow!
It was just all taking clips from the animated shorts and stuff like that they've already done. But I was like, oh man,
it's a good idea.
If they did it, I'd watch it.
Notes, Blizzard.
I'm sure they have
something has got to be in the works.
I'm sure.
Gotta be. But stick around for the end of the episode when Dylan gave us a song and hint to use for the song contest for this week. All right, moving right along, getting into this topic. We wanted to talk about today our favorite game openings.
Our first introductions.
First introduction
to a game. Installments.
Let me ask, how did you guys approach this? Was this like playing the character, or is this opening cinematics, or...
One of mine is a bit of both, but it's very cut and dry. It's like, this is the opening. The other one is like, I'm kind of stretching it out to what I believe the opening sequence is.
I feel like that's how both of mine are.
Yeah.
So
mine are a combination, I think. Like you're playing and then the opening cinematics come into play or vice versa.
Well, we haven't started with you in a while.
Ooh, should we start with me?
Why don't you
go
start?
ahead.
I'm trying to think. So both these games I've talked about before. I'm trying to think which one I've talked about the least amount or less recently.
I wonder if you and I are going to have overlap.
I don't think so. The two games. So the two.
Awfully cocky he is.
I guess I'll start with Oblivion. I don't know. When I haven't talked about Oblivion, I feel like
you haven't talked about Oblivion in a very long time.
The first episode,
you might have talked. Yeah, the first episode you talked about it a little bit.
One of my favorite games, top 3.
Still top 3?
That's interesting. We have to revisit that, perhaps. I think still top 3. I love Oblivion, and I'm trying to get back into it too. There's a Let's Play I've been watching, and it's the guy, I forget his name, like Max LaFrost or something, and he does those videos that I sent you guys.
Did you see he just did a new one?
He did, when he's swimming.
Why
won't you die? He is oof.
I love that he like turned around, ran around the pool.
Jumped in.
It's so perfect.
I haven't played Oblivion, and that still made me laugh so hard.
It's because you could just see the NPC in him. And anyways, I've been watching them do their Let's Plays. It's very funny, and it's very good. I'm like, man, I really want to replay Oblivion. But what Elder Scrolls does, and correct me if I'm wrong, at least I know Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim do this, which I love, is the beginning of all these games, you start out as a prisoner. And I love that idea. You are a prisoner, and you are, at least in Skyrim, you're about to be executed. In Oblivion, which I'll be talking about, is you're in a jail cell. And what's kind of neat about the idea of being a prisoner is sort of this like mythical destiny of like, you're a prisoner, and yet you are this chosen person. And in both Skyrim and Oblivion, the games I've played, people look at you and they're like, oh, you're that person. Like there's something about you. But it's cool that you're this prisoner and you don't know how you got there, and it doesn't really matter, but that's how you start the game. And so in Oblivion, you start in a jail cell, and there's a guy, so you just kind of like wake up, you're in a jail cell, and there's a guy across the row, and he's talking to you, and I think he's always an Argonian, which is like the lizard people.
Right.
And he's like, hey, wake up. And it's kind of this great way to like start the game. And he is kind of trash talking you, and he's like, they're gonna come down, they're gonna kill you, you know, you're in it now, and you're
dead,
like,
son. Yeah,
you're dead. And he's like this asshole. And sure enough, the guards come down with the king, and what is his name? Septim? Tyranius Septim? Something like that. And
Tyrone?
No, and what is his name?
King Tyrone it is.
Tyrone. Yeah, Ja Rule. And he comes down with the guards, and they're like, hey, we have to get the king out of here. There's they're ambushing him, and this is the prison cell that has a wall that opens up down into the dungeon. So it's just this like it feels very predestined. It's like you are the prisoner that is in the cell that needs to get the king out. And he looks at you, and he's like, so they're about to leave, and he looks at you, and you have this like interaction with him. He's like, you're the one from my dreams. You're the one. That's the one. And you're like, ooh, goosebumps. Yeah. And he's like, there's something special about you. You have the heart of this and that, you know, all that and whatever. Right. And, which is it's great, though. And you get to go down with him, with his guards, to the underbelly of the prison that you're in, and you get to help fight all these assassins that are trying to kill him. You get to beat up rats down there. And you get to a point where it's just you and him.
Dessert from those rats.
I know. What do you get? Rock joint from them. Or like
in the game?
Yeah, you can get rock joint.
I was like, are they just regular sized rats?
No, they're big rats.
Oh, okay.
They're not huge, but they're like they're like small dogs.
They're like
they're called skeevers too. They're
the
not
Dark
rats.
Souls rats.
Skeevers. We always have a joke that like, in Skyrim, the Dragonborn, you know, you're the Dragonborn, and you have to. The first thing you have to do is get out and kill all these rats and mud crabs, and like we always joke that they bite you and you get rock joint and you die. And like, what happened to the Dragonborn?
Just died from a simple disease.
Yeah, I know. The damnedest thing happened. You won't believe it. He's dead. Rock joint got him. Alduin will kill us all. There's no one to stop him. Anyways, you talk to the Emperor, and he's there, and he's like, you're the one that's going to carry on tradition. You need to go find this person. These are the final days of my life. And as you're talking, and right after that, he gets assassinated, and it happens. And so basically, all this heavy stuff gets thrown on you very quickly. But I think two things it does really well is exposition. As you're kind of going through the game, you kind of get everything you need to know very quickly. Also, in context of where you are, is really fascinating to be down in these sewers and to be down in what's really a kind of gross, murky area, to then transition into the world of Tamriel, to walk. I think I've talked about favorite gaming moments. It's the moment you walk out of the sewers and are in Tamriel, and it's beautiful woods, rivers, castles, and everything's there. So what it does is sort of, I almost made this reference. Maybe it's like birth canal, you know? It's like you're being born, and it's like you're in this gross, murky, like disgusting place, and then you come out of the gates.
You, sir.
I was about to say, some people would probably say birth canal is a beautiful place.
Regardless of your opinion,
life, you bastard.
of the interiors of bodies, you do get to come out and you open the gates, and right before you open, it's like, are you sure you're ready? Are you sure you don't want to change your character? And you're like, I'm ready. Oh. And you go out there and you get to Tamriel, and it's just a magical moment to go from a dungy prison to the beautiful world of Tamriel after getting good story exposition and learning the gaming mechanics. Of course, it's very condensed and well done, and it's one of my favorite openings. It's like priming you to do whatever you want. And it was, it's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I still need to get to the Elder Scrolls games at some point. I have Skyrim. I just never have got around to it because it came free with my Xbox 360 when I bought that. It was bundled in.
As someone that, if you enjoy RPGs, they're top tier.
I do love me a good RPG.
Yeah, Skyrim's amazing. It's amazing.
And I feel like I would find it very similar. Well, maybe not as similar, but it would, like I love Dragon Age. So I feel like they're similar in style enough that I would like the other one. I just, it's just got so many RPGs.
If you just start it one day and just do the opening. I mean, it'll take you 20 minutes to do the opening scene.
I tried to buy Oblivion once because I found it on sale or on clearance at half price books, and it was like $2. And
Oblivion's great.
Hell yeah! Took it up to the front, and one of the discs was gone.
Oh, I didn't even know it was multi-disc.
Was it a multi-disc? Oh, back in the olden days.
Yeah,
and I was like,
realize that.
Damn it. And I thought that just meant like they when it was out on the shelf, they had one of the discs with it to prevent theft. And so when I said, it was like, one of the discs is missing, so do you have that back here? And she was like, oh.
Maybe they could have given you the one disc for $1.
We don't have it back here. I was like, damn it.
Sucks.
Oh, well.
Yeah,
I'll get around to it eventually.
You should. Start with Skyrim. You can play Oblivion, but start with
That's
Skyrim.
true. They're not like connected and necessarily in a big way, really.
Not really.
All right, sweet. I got plenty of time before Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, so I mean, if ever.
If ever.
It's the new Zelda.
It is. Everyone's waiting for Elder Scrolls 6.
You've got a lot of waiting there, buddy.
At least 2 years. At
Port
least
it to every single device available.
Yeah, just
before
dig in.
They just make the new one.
Skyrim. It's getting annoying now. How many times can...
Like what? When did it come out? 11, 12?
Yeah, something like that.
God.
How many times can you buy a game?
I know,
the
seriously.
Same game.
Well, listen, Bethesda.
Yeah.
We speak truth. Well, so one of mine, I feel like the choice that I had for an opening is a fairly. This is the main reason why I picked it. The opening of this game is a game itself.
Ooh.
So I think you've played it.
Okay.
I know you've played the game that it opens up to.
Okay.
I'll quit being so cryptic.
Yeah.
It's Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes.
Oh, yeah. Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes.
So they released this game
in
before Phantom Pain came out.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh, sweet. We get this like cool another Metal Gear Solid game. Oh, that's cool. Because I feel like it was somewhat of a surprise release. Like everybody was like, oh, sweet. And they were like, it's cheaper. It was like $30, something like that. And so, and then I didn't get it then because I had before I played this, I had never played a Metal Gear Solid game.
Yeah.
And so, but then it came on PS Plus 1 month, and I was like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll try this out and play it. And that's the thing. Basically, after it came out and everybody figured out what it was, that game is basically the opening chapter setting up the events of the Phantom Pain.
Really?
Yes. It's like it's almost like a demo, but it's also part of the game.
Right. But it was a separate thing.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, I mean... Metal Gear Solid has always seemed interesting to me, but never one that was at the top of my list. Like, I gotta play these games when they come out. Granted, when all the things for Metal Gear Solid 5 were coming out, I was like, oh, this looks really cool. But then, so when Ground Zeroes came on PS Plus, I was like, I'll give this a shot.
Yeah.
And after playing it, I was like, okay, I gotta play Phantom Pain.
Yeah.
Which I still haven't done, but closer to rectifying that because I did just get it for my birthday.
Right over there.
Sitting right over there. So game time is coming soon. So... But anyway, so basically what this is you're infiltrating this prison or this camp to retrieve a character from previous games, Paz and Chico. are their names. And so you're going through, and the majority of this game is just this infiltration. But then as you're going through and rescuing things, you read these audio tapes, and you're finding out that like Paz has been tortured. And I'm not quite clear on the story or lore behind why she's there or what she is, but you get the feeling that she's a younger character. Chico is a kid, but I can't remember if Paz is a kid as well. But definitely like young adult, if anything. And so you wind up getting into this base. You find Chico, and then he like helps you figure out where Paz is, and you get to Paz, and of course you are doing all this subtle sneakiness of Snake, or that happens in Metal Gear Solid games, and then you do finally get to Paz. And you rescue her, and she's complaining about being, sick or ill, not feeling well. And you're just like, oh, it's because, they've tortured you and all this. And you get her onto the helicopter, and you're flying away on this helicopter on your exit after, when I played, everything went to shit, and I just started killing everybody because they started coming after me. And I was like, I don't know how to do this stuff fully anymore. And so, big firefight getting out of this prison. And then you finally get on this helicopter, and you go away, and you realize she's still like freaking out, acting like something's wrong. And you look, and she has had something put inside her, like a bomb or something. And so it was one of those, like you're doing like this emergency surgery, trying to get it out of her because you don't know when it's going to blow up, what its point is, what necessarily even why it was put in her, but it's just how it is. And so you're going away and trying to do it in all rushed, but then I'm hazy, but it was like they got one bomb out, but then they discovered, oh, fuck, there's a second one. And that one is like about to go at any second. And so, they're trying to get that one too, but Paz is able in this moment of she's been weak and beaten and tortured, and obviously had a bomb or two put inside her. So obviously that would wear down anybody. And but in a moment of like strength, is able to like throw herself out of the helicopter. And it's this very much, Snake is all about like still trying to save her and get her. And so it's like this very cinematic, emotional moment where she, jumps out of the helicopter, and like he's reaching out after her to try to grab her, or, obviously, or like, no, don't, kind of thing, trying to save her and, trying to end the situation in the best way possible kind of thing. But it was one of those things that's like, she knew it was just too late. And if she had stayed on there, then everybody would have gone. And so it was just this very emotional moment. And I was surprised how much, because I hadn't played these games. I had no connection to these characters other than what I had played and heard in like the recaps before, because that game gave you a good introductory recap of what had happened in the events prior a little bit. So I had a brief idea of who these people were.
Confusing timeline, though.
Right. Yeah. And that's what all those, it's Kojima. So it's
you
confusing.
would think that the 30 to 1 hour long cutscenes would help clear up the confusion, but you'd be wrong.
Thickens the fog.
And so, I had no emotional attachment to these characters, but still that moment, and I still remember that moment in the music happening and Snake's reaction to it, Chico's reaction to it, everybody just being like, what?
Yeah.
And so it just being this very incredibly sad moment. And so that stuck with me. And then they get back to their base, and it gets attacked, and then that's where Snake gets knocked out or whatever, and then he wakes up in the hospital, which is where Phantom Pain starts off. But it's like you didn't know that's where it was going to be until after the scene in the hospital, and then it like gave a text screens being like, the story continues in the Phantom Pain. You're like, wait, what? This is just the beginning?
So bizarre.
It's crazy.
It was a totally weird way of doing it, but that's a hats off for that's an excellent marketing tool of like being like, here's this separate game. Wink,
but it's really the first.
But it's really the first part of this game that's about to come out.
I like the sound of it, the actual story arc. I don't like that idea of that becoming a common.
No, I don't want it to become a common. I think they were able to get away with it this one time. I don't think you could do it again, and I don't think that.
Magnum opus.
Especially if it was like, so this game was like $20 when it first came out. That's
a little
too
much.
many.
Like I got it.
I thought it was a demo. I thought it was a free demo.
No, it was just like you had to pay because you could buy a physical version at the store. I remember.
I mean, I knew Ground Zeroes was its own game, but dang.
Well, I remember playing it and then getting to the end, and because I was able to knock it out in a couple hours, it wasn't very long, and I was just like,
it's super short.
It could be very long if you tried to get
really.
Yeah.
Excuse me, it's how long?
It's one level, but I mean, it tried. That's what I'm saying. It counts as a game opener. But
it does, so it shouldn't have been $20
Well, no. So I finished it. I was like, oh, I'm very glad I did not spend money on this.
Oh man,
but
yeah.
So that's what I mean. No, I do not want that to become common practice either.
They should have released it with the Phantom Pain. Like, at least when Phantom Pain came out, is it not part of that game at all?
I don't know. I haven't played it. So.
Oh, that's some horse
I don't remember
right
paying
there.
for this though. I remember like just being able to play it.
I remember they had physical copies that you could buy at stores, and there was no way they were just giving those out.
No, yeah, I hear you.
So,
I don't remember for that.
But yeah, maybe they did the same thing. Like Games with Gold gave it for free on Xbox.
I don't remember. I wouldn't have paid for it.
But I definitely played it, and I was like, oh, I'm glad I did not spend money on this.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure
I would have sued.
If you were going though for the full Metal Gear experience and like trying to unlock every challenge, do all that stuff.
This
you could
like a religion for people.
You could be in it for hours, I'm sure. And so if you're a hardcore player, then that you'd probably sit in there, $20 well spent.
Yeah.
But for me, as not having had any other previous entry into that series, I was like, I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
So, but no, so I picked that one purely on the sole like idea behind it of just like, here's a secret game basically, or a surprise game that is the opener to another game. Like it was an interesting concept, and why I wanted to pick that one for one of my picks.
I can't wait till we get to my number 2. Go ahead, Mogan.
Do you just want to throw it back?
I can't. So it would have been perfect though, obviously.
We're going to take a departure from all of that doom and gloom to go to the land of the Legend of Zelda. Literally, duh. But it's actually one of the games that we have talked about very little in the whole show. Skyward Sword.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Skyward Sword is one of those highly polarizing Zelda games. A lot of people hate it.
Okay.
With me, my opinion of it has actually warmed up over time. Like, I go back to that game now and I'm like, this was a really good game and it really didn't deserve all of the negative flack that it got. It definitely had its problems, but it also had really, really great things about it too. And one of the best things about it is a excellent example of storytelling. Mm-hmm. And the opening of that game really kind of sets up the whole... It sets you up for the whole rest of the game, both in terms of tone and in terms of story, of course. So the actual opening cutscene, which is kind of like the scroll-style voiceover, you know, there's subtitles and stuff of like, oh, here's what happened 1,000 years ago or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually going to be talking about pretty much from the first day that you are able to play to that night. Mm-hmm. So you start the day, you basically get through the opening cutscene, it comes up with the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword logo, and like you go from this very somber scroll style, you know, opening to bright blue skies, wide open air, and these big giant ostrich pelican looking birds flying around in the sky, and you're like, what is this? Because most Zelda games don't really take place in the air except for maybe 1 or 2 levels here and there.
Yeah.
So you're like, wow, this is awesome. So it's this really beautiful scene of like these 2 giant birds floating through the sky. And then you like zoom in on Skyloft itself, which is your floating city. And there's like people diving off of launch decks onto their birds below and flying away in glory. And it's just like, this is the best.
Yeah.
And then you get a brief, not really quite a close-up, but you know who it is. You see Zelda, and she's standing in like this big courtyard, and one of the purple bird flies up to her, and she hands it a letter. And these are like big birds. They're like
they're huge. You like
so
ride them.
It chomps the letter in its beak and then flies away. And then it kind of cuts to a dream sequence. So like then you see Link in Skyward Sword, and you can tell that he's dreaming. It's very obvious that this is not reality, it's a dream. And this monstrous, it's very dark, it's very black, very spooky, and this monstrous giant creature rises up from the ground, and it's like doing its monstrous scream, and Link is like freaking out, and you're just like, oh crap, shit's getting real. And then kind of right above this monster, up in the sky, this magical shining purple light that you can't quite make out kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's talking to you in this semi-robotic voice, and you're like, what's happening? And it's like, Link, you have to wake up. Pretty much kind of like Breath of the Wild, because most games in The Legend of Zelda start with Link waking up from a nap.
Yeah, doesn't Ocarina of Time?
Yeah, and so does Wind Waker, so does A Link to the Past.
He's lazy as hell.
He sleeps a lot.
But it's kind of cool. I like that personality trait.
He's lazy. That's kind of one of his overriding characteristics. So it starts with this, you know, kind of voice in the sky telling you to wake up, And then the dream kind of goes back to Link, and like you see his face, and he turns in the dream to look to his side, and he's like this close face to face with the purple bird, and it's like staring him down, and like that kind of wakes him up, like that jars him awake, and he falls out of bed onto the floor, and like from his half in the bed, half on the floor vantage point, he's looking around his room, and he kind of looks up, and he sees like this giant bird face in his window that's like, hey buddy, how's it going? And the bird's looking at Link, and Link's looking at the bird, and then it just kind of spits the letter out onto his face.
Gross.
And it's just like, bow. And that entire scene had me rolling when I first played the game. I was like, this is hilarious. It's perfect. It sets you up to understand Link's character, because like he kind of gets up, he's like shuffling around. And so he picks up the letter, and like it's just something from Zelda that's like, oh, meet me at such and such. But it's like, I know how much you like to sleep in, Link. This is probably your wake up alarm. Get up, sleepyhead. And it's like, oh, good, I'm lazy again. This is great. So pretty much the whole rest of that day is kind of your opening scene in my mind. You meet some of the other key characters, you participate in this loft wing, those are your birds, this race, you get something, there's like character building with Zelda and whatever, and then shit goes down. Is that what happens? Stuff starts happening, it's bad news bears. I think Zelda gets like, she falls below the cloud line. I think that all happens on day one. But anyways, the point is, shit goes down, and then it's night. So you go from this beautiful, bright blue day, like this shining city, to night. And kind of all of the music quiets down, and you're like back at your dormitory for the school. And again, you get woken up by something, and you're like, what's happening? And like this interesting music kind of starts up, and you're like, what's going on? And you exit your bedroom at night in like this totally deserted corridor, and at the very end, you see this like kind of ghostly blue and purple creature / woman, but it's clearly not like a real human, and she's looking at you, and you're looking at her, and when you approach her, she still faces you, but like she backs up. Every time you get close, she kind of flies away, because like she's not on the ground, she's just sort of a floating creature. And you basically have this great sequence, I really love it, of you commanding Link, and you're just following her throughout the entire city, and eventually you get back to that courtyard where Zelda was at the beginning, at the base of a giant goddess statue. So you have followed her all the way, and then this magical little hidden alcove opens up, and you follow her down, and you find the Master Sword. Boom, right then and there. Oh. And it's a fantastic sequence that opens up the game. Yeah. Like, I wish I should have thought of that sooner. The music that plays when you first meet Fee, who is the spirit that inhabits the Master Sword or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's a great piece of soundtrack. And it has this fascinating quality of like both whimsy and kind of more, I don't want to say sinister per se, but like you don't really know for sure when you first meet her if this creature is good or bad. You just kind of are assuming it's one of the good things, and eventually you find out that it is, but at that beginning scene where you're following her through the town at night, it's just one of my favorite openings to really kind of any game. And once you get the Master Sword, the game really picks up pace from there, but that whole first day and night is really kind of your opening, and I love it to pieces. It's a great example of a first day of a game.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I dig
Top
it.
shelf.
That's top awesome. Shelf. Top marks.
Top shelf.
Good old Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
I
was thinking about Twilight Princess for a little bit. I love the whole openings of Twilight Princess.
Opening of that,
they do.
Of that game. I was going to say movie of that game, but Skyward Swords, I actually might like that opening better.
Yeah, I actually,
or at least how I'm envisioning the opening.
I recently watched the Twilight Princess opening and was reminded how cool it is, especially when you're like, I forgot about the whole, like, you're like on the banks of a river with that guy.
Yeah. What is his name?
I don't remember. And you're talking to him. Too. And it's just I think one of the biggest things was like how that game looks. It's like, oh man, it looks so beautiful. Yeah. It's got a great art style to it.
It really does.
So the reason I was laughing about my number 2 is it's Metal Gear Solid 5.
Well, that's perfect.
It's perfect. So right when Ground Zeroes leaves us, Phantom Pain takes over. And I think I've talked about this maybe briefly. It's the hospital scene, which is a good 20 to 30 minute level that is just insane to me. The whole time I was like, I cannot believe that this is happening, that this is the beginning of this game. It is so bizarre. Basically, as you said, you wake up in the hospital as Big Boss, and or Snake, or I'm gonna get so much shit from people. Like
Back in my day, we
I don't
called
know.
him Snake.
We are not
Solid
huge
Snake?
Metal Gear Solid fans.
It's the only one
we
I've played.
apologize. We will probably refer to him as Snake or Big Boss.
I think it's
or
Big
interchange
Boss.
them both. So
I think it's Big
apologies
Boss.
in advance.
Big Boss. Anyways, you wake up and I'll briefly go through it, but you are having an interaction with the doctor who's helping you out. I think he's German and he has an accent, and he's sort of talking to you, and you don't really realize what's going on. Typical hospital waking up scenario, and you're kind of going in and out from blackness, and he's kind of giving you these serums. He's trying to like help you out. He'll be fine. He's got a nurse with you. They're talking, and you kind of you hear their conversations, but you can't talk. That's kind of important. You're like not really able to communicate back with them. About the second interaction he comes in, maybe third, he tells you about your arm, and that's a really big moment when you look to your left, and I think you actually are controlling where you're looking. When you look to your left, half your arm is missing, and that's like your first, and like he blacks out when he sees it. It's like this horrible thing, and I think like honestly, 2 more interactions go by. They talk to you about what's going on. They show you your X-ray of all these metal shards that went into you. One of them which can't be taken out. So if you play the game, you have like a horn of a piece of metal sticking out of you.
That's right.
At like all times. It's like
really?
Yeah. It's like
I must have missed that. Is that real?
Yeah. It's like a little bump of a piece of metal. And what then happens, the final kind of moment with the doctor is you're there. Again, you can't talk, you're silent, and this assassin comes into the hospital. Again, you're kind of controlling the camera.
He sure does.
He does. It's like a piece of red.
That's what that
Is
that
what it
was.
is?
I guess I just never looked that closely
it's like
at
a piece
it.
of shard that they can't get out.
I had seen it before in pictures, but I honestly, just with how weird sometimes Kojima can be with his games,
you're like,
I
it's
thought
just
it
a
was
thing.
just like
That's who he is.
Snake was turning evil, so it was like a devil horn or something coming out.
I
It's
guess
like
my
that Daniel
brain-
Radcliffe movie Horns, where like he has the, it's like I was like, is that what's happening here?
Yeah.
Is he getting
It's
horned?
a piece of metal they can't get out.
All right.
And the assassin comes in, I believe, strangles the nurse. And you're watching this as the doctor's talking to you, and you're like, you can't say anything.
Right.
And then doctor gets killed. And I believe, listeners, correct me if I'm wrong, Quiet is at the beginning. The female antagonist, then protagonist, I suppose, comes in and is ready to kill you. And luckily, I think one of this guy that's on the other side of the curtain that's also that's also been in the hospital, is able to help light her on fire with you. I can't remember if you actually throw the gasoline on her or he does, but she gets lit on fire, and it's like insane. You're like, oh my God. And she's like flaring around, flies out of a window. He's like, I'm the only one that can help you. It's this great, of course, cinematic moment where he's like, I'm the only one that can help you. Follow me. And for the first maybe 5 to 10 minutes of the opening, as you can actually control Snake and actually move him, you're controlling the character. Because he's been in a coma for X amount of time, his legs are weak. So all you can do is crawl. So you're crawling everywhere, and it's super slow. The guy's with you. He's crawling with you. He has like the typical hospital wardrobe on, so it's kind of funny. And it's like, yeah, you're the same way. And eventually you get to a bench, and you can put your arm on the bench, you can kind of get up, and then you can start clutching the walls. But the whole time, you have no mobility. You feel... I've never felt so out of control with a character. And as this all is happening, these helicopters are flying around the hospital. Swarms of these bad Army Corps people are coming in and just killing everybody. There's a scene where you kind of turn a corner and you are with a crowd of 30 other people that are in the hospital, and you're just with them, and you're kind of like, what's going on? What's going on? And out of nowhere, these 3... M16 holding Marine people come around the corner and just start mowing down everybody. And it's just horrific.
Metal
and
Gear.
You can't go the other way because there's
Jesus.
a cage. And there's a great moment. I'm going to spoil the whole opening, but there's a great moment where you have to pretend to be dead amongst the bodies, and you're lying there, and you sea of bodies, blood everywhere. You're lying there motionless. Your friend's with you to your right. the army guys are coming and just, shooting the dead bodies already, shooting, getting closer. The guy to your right urinates. He pees all over the floor. And I know it's
giving it away.
I know.
Giving himself away.
But it's a great moment. It's so tense. Like here they come. He comes right over you, puts the gun right over you, and then like I can't remember, like something happens and like he has to go this way. And you get very lucky. Go to another room, and you have to hide under these beds where people above you are. Again, these army guys come in, and it is so tense to be. They're like looking in the curtains. You have to like move to every moment that the curtain they don't look into. Ugh. They're shooting everybody. There's a great moment where someone gets shot. He falls like kind of on top of you, near you, and it's like face to face with them. And he's like, oh, help. And then bam, gets killed. I mean, this like over and over, these moments of just like horror and it's so scary. And this guy is just like, you keep following this guy. And again, you are so not physically able to do some of these things. So it just feels like you just have to like keep up. Helicopters coming around. There's a great moment where a helicopter, you have to kind of, a typical Metal Gear style, it has a light that comes through and you have to avoid the light down this hallway. And then they introduce the Man on Fire, and he is this evil spirit almost that you will encounter multiple times throughout the game.
Oh, I remember you talking about him.
Yeah, and he is, and it's still confusing to me because the guys that are killing you like turn around and try to kill him and like they're all shooting at him and he like absorbs these bullets, and you get the idea to shoot the sprinklers and it puts out the fire. So it's a really also fantastic moment. You eventually do get out, and I recently replayed this maybe 2 months ago, and that's kind of the point I got to, is right when you get out of the hospital and you're kind of driving away and there's like a car accident. But what I didn't get to, but a fond memory is when you're able to get to the desert and you get your horse for the first time, and it's this great moment of you being able to get, again, like Oblivion, you've been trapped in this very disgusting world, and then you get to get out, and you have this horse and this freedom. So it does that great juxtaposition of being kind of encaged and then like a bird being free. Yeah. And it's a great moment to actually be done with all that stuff and have your new, I think they get like a metal arm, and like you're totally transformed into like this, not superhuman, but this person that's like totally physically able, not like it was before. But the whole, you're going to love it. The whole 30, 45 minute opening is just insane. Nice. It is so
I feel
tense,
stressed out
gory.
just hearing about
seriously.
it. It's like,
oh yeah. That moment terrible. Where like they're coming over and just shooting the dead bodies, and the guy's peeing next to you, and you're just like, there's no way we're going to make it. There's no way. We're going to get killed.
I know there's a lot of game left, but there's no way.
There's no way. This is the game. We're going to die.
It's all in this hospital.
And of course, the cinematics are beautiful. The music's unbelievable. The graphics blew me away, just how good it looked.
Yeah.
It's just so unique. I've never played a game that unique and that original of an opening. I was really floored by that whole beginning. Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
I'm
more excited to get into it now.
That was still when Kojima was with Konami, right?
It was like at the tail end. He was
back when
making
he was
the game,
locked in the basement.
But that's when they were like, they kind of like hijacked the end production of it near the end of the development cycle. Yeah, it's kind of when things started really going south.
Okay.
But he's all over that game. Good. I mean, I say that both metaphorically, like it's his game, it's his design. You can see his
influence.
His print everywhere, and it's also literally you will read the name Hideo Kojima a gazillion times.
You did even in the ground zeros.
Every time you started, every time it's like a new cinematic by Hideo Kojima. Okay? Every time it's a new mission, Hideo Kojima presents.
Really?
Oh my gosh, you'll read his name 200 times.
It's like, who made this?
It's hilarious.
Kojima, that's right.
Hideo Kojima.
That's probably his parting shot.
Oh, I think it's something tongue in cheek about it. Yeah, it's like I get it. There's so many parody things I've seen online.
Awesome.
Hideo Kojima.
Do you like this video game? Well, it's Hideo Kojima.
It's Hideo Kojima.
Hope you know.
Hilarious.
That's awesome.
So I can't wait for you to play it. I'm looking.
Man, now I want to play it.
It's great. Ugh. It's so awesome.
Get it for that PS4.
I know. Yeah, I probably should. I can.
Yeah, it's out there. It's cheap.
Yeah,
I think it was like $15 on Amazon. So it's real
See, like
cheap.
that's what it looks like.
Oh wow, that is really good.
Yeah, just you crawling.
Oh, it's super crisp looking.
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, so your friend is way more mobile.
He is. Your friend is way more mobile.
I'm glad they tied up his gown.
But it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
I bet.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
You want to just get out.
Yeah. Oh, it's super.
Oh, and there's what you're saying about.
That's where you try to stand up and you can't.
I'm so weak.
Yeah.
I got my hook arm. It's not helping me at all.
It's super cool.
Well, it's new. The hook is new.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
All right,
He's just got to learn how to deal.
Jerrett, what's your second installment?
So my second installment is a fantastic game. it's not. No, I was going to make the last of this joke, but I won't. I was going to say it's The Last of Us. No.
Oh, no.
Or Horizon Zero Dawn. No. It's another game that I actually have just started playing in this last week. Wolfenstein: The New Order.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So obviously, our good friend Brandon has talked about this game a lot and how much he loved it. I actually bought it on sale last year, and I'm just finally now since I've gotten through some bigger games lately, I'm finally making the effort to get through my backlog. And so I'm starting on this one now, trying to get through it. And so I just started it this last week. And so first off, it's Bethesda, so it has it kind of like in the gameplay and everything that I've experienced already, it has a slight feeling like the frenetic craziness of it is similar in style a little bit to Doom and everything. But so this first mission starts off in a plane, and you're flying. You're in this plane, and you're the character Blazkowicz. Or Blazkowicz, I can never. They say his name a shitload, but it's like, but I think it's how his name. William B.J. Blazkowicz, and so you're in this plane and you're going on this assault on a German stronghold because it's in 1946. And so as you're going, though, you're attacked by German fighters, which look way different than anything else that you like than all your planes. Everything has a slightly more industrial, almost. Not quite steampunk is the right word, but like a slightly more industrial look than what you're used to seeing World War II like planes and stuff look like. But these German fighters start coming at you, and they look very much like very small versions of the modern B-52 stealth fighter or stealth bomber. And so you're going around, and that's coming up at you and flying around, and you're like, okay, this is odd. And then you wind up crashing the plane. You get shot down. You have to like jump from one plane to the other because your whole fleet is just getting shot to pieces, and you wind up crash landing on the beachhead in front of this German stronghold. Well, as you are waking up from the crash and recovering from the crash, one of the giant metal dog hound things like starts ripping through the plane at you, and you're like, oh, this is not. Okay, we haven't encountered this in World War II yet before. And so that just kind of like takes you back, and you have to like defeat a couple of those. And then also on this beachhead, there's this huge just like cliffside, and you see this massive German fortress in front of you. But out in front of it is this huge thing that they call in the game the Stomper. It's just this huge mechanical being that's just like 3 legs, and it's just stomping around shooting out like electric bolts and things. And you're just like, what is this technology?
Wolfenstein sounds like a crazy game.
And I never played any of the older ones. So, and I know that this is kind of like similar to how the New Order, Wolfenstein: The New Order, is similar to Doom in the fact that it is like a reimagining and reboot of an older series. And so, you're getting in there and you're seeing this, and so you're like tasked with going into this fortress because you're there to try to assassinate this German weapons creator. He's referred to as Death's Head. And he like makes all these weapons, and you first see this intelligence. He's like the brain behind the German war machine kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so you're there to kill him, and you wind up going into this fortress. You're able to like make it off the beaches. You encounter all the Nazis who are in these really like bulked out pieces of like armor and everything. They have these crazy weapons and all this other shit, and you're just going through and you're fighting and fighting and fighting, and then you make it into this one section that has it's like this test chamber or hospital room kind of thing. It has a lot to do with hospitals today. And you see all these guys who they're dead, obviously, but they're like strung up in this room. Like they're on their stomachs, but their hands are strung up above them, but all their backs have been like cut open.
Gross.
Like stuff is being done to them. And you realize you're in here, and then somebody accidentally turns on like this incinerator in the room, and so you like have to get out of that room before like this incinerator blows. And one of the guys who's been working with you like fell too hard, and so like he's got broken feet. Both his feet are broken. You got to like run back in there, pick him up, and run him back in. And be like, oh my god. And so.
Do you have the option to leave him?
No, I thought you might. Like, or if you didn't get it done, or I thought it was going to be part of the cinematic. Like, you got out in time just tonight, and you like turned around to go get him, and the room like goes up in flames, and you watch him burn. Because I've gotten the feel from the game.
I just would have left him.
What I played. No man gets left behind, Mogan. No man gets left behind.
In my game, everyone gets left behind.
And so you will spend hours trying to make sure every Pikmin lives.
They're not men though. They're Pikmin. Pikmin, M-I-N.
But anyway, so you're going through this place, and then you get into this other room, and in this room, some like crazy super soldier jumps out of the floor, kills a guy by like crushing his head in his hands, of thing. He's like super armored. You can tell he was once human, but now he's like not.
Where's your soul?
As you're going through this, you're just realizing that this Death's Head, which you hear from Blazkowicz's internal dialogue, that he's had dealings with this guy before, but you're not quite sure. And that may be an ode to the older games, or, since I haven't finished the game yet, it might be more revealed later on in this game. And so you get locked in this room, and you're with him in there, and you finally are able to kill this like super soldier. You turn around to leave, and Death's Head is staring at you through the doorway. And he's able to capture you, and then there's this very like traumatic scene where there's this you're with, now that's just like you, two other guys, and the guy with the broken feet. And the two other guys, this one guy, Private White, and this other guy, Fergus, who was the pilot of your plane that you flew in on. And he's like really this like brash, brazen Englishman, or, and he kind of like, as you're going, you're like, okay, you've been in war for a while, you know what you're doing, you're confident, you are a skilled soldier. And this Private White is like the greenhorn kid, like first mission kind of thing. Like he's like throwing up on the beach earlier and all this other stuff, throwing up when they got into that room with all the guys getting worked on. Yeah. But anyway, so you're in this room with Death's Head, and there's 3 more of these huge super soldiers in there too. And he like makes you give the choice. Like he already like said like, dude with broken foot, he's too busted. Like he won't do anything with my specimens. But like, these 2 guys will, because Fergus or Private Wyatt, and so that he makes you choose which one like he's gonna
do experiments on.
Yeah, do experiments on. And so, but it was this really weird thing. I was legitimately like, I don't know what to do. Fergus seems very capable, and like he'll help me get out better. But Wyatt is this young kid who's like, and all that thing. I wound up going with Wyatt. But
I would have too.
Well, and because earlier in the game, Wyatt saves you from one of those metal dogs, and you're just like, oh, you saved my life, kid. And he's like, I'm sure you'd do the same for me, sir. And you're just like, damn it, no, I wouldn't. I guess not.
Sorry, kid.
But anyway, so you wind up being able to escape from this room because Death's Head leaves you back in that room with all the incinerators, and he goes to set them off. But you're able to get out, escape through a window. But as you're jumping out of the window from this fortress into the ocean below, an explosion in the room that you were in, because you blocked up all the incinerators, you like banged them, so like all this pressure's building up inside these pipes.
Gotcha.
And you jump out the window, and as you go, the explosion comes out behind you, and you get hit in the head with all these pieces of shrapnel. And it shows you fall into the ocean below, and you're unconscious, but you like landed on some piles of driftwood, and you're just like floating along in the sea. And you get picked up by a boat, you hear that, and then you kind of wake up later, and you're in a hospital or like a mental institution, something like that. And it goes at this point through just a cinematic where you're sitting there, and you're basically brain dead, is what you hear the doctors say, because of the shrapnel, they can't get it all out. But then as you're there for over a few days, you realize that Nazis are coming to this hospital and getting people for Death's Head's research and stuff like that. And so you realize it's just like the family who runs it seems to be a very nice family. You're taken care of by their daughter, Anya, and it seems and they seem like good people. They're just stuck in this impossible situation.
Yeah.
And so, but one day, you're in the hospital, the Germans come, and they basically say, like, hey, we're done. We don't need this anymore, so we're shutting this whole place down. And they start going around and shooting all the patients.
Oh.
So
this is the same.
I know, right?
Same
like, you're explaining this to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, well, this sounds very similar to what I'm about to tell you.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, like, the doctor at this point is like, no, you can't. And they wind up shooting the doctor. They wind up shooting the doctor's wife. And then they knock out Anya and start taking her away. Well, all this, like, kind of jars you out of your stupor. And you have that momentary moment of weakness, similar to, it's way shorter than what Snake interacted with. You fall down, you're like, oh, my muscles are weak, hands are numb, and then you're just like, here's a gun, let's go.
It's like suddenly I'm feeling so much better.
And so you go through here, you're able to fight off the Nazis in there, and you rescue Anya, and you drive away in a car, and she takes you to her grandparents' farm out in the countryside. And you get there, you're sitting down, they obviously have this period of mourning where they're over her parents and everything, and then you're sitting down for them with dinner in this cinematic, and they're just like, and they're asking you like, okay, so we know you're a U.S. soldier, and he's like, yeah, I just got to get back to my unit, got to let them know that I'm okay, and they're just kind of like, well, that's not possible, and he's like, well, why? And they're like, it's 1960 now.
Oh, wow.
So you wound up being in that hospital for 14 years.
Wow.
Like in this brain dead coma kind of thing.
Good God.
And so,
good God.
And so he's like, so wait, why are there still Nazis then? And they have to be this whole thing of like, well, they won. And you're just like, okay, that doesn't make sense at all. What the U.S. do? And they're like, they surrendered. And you're like, no.
No.
And so then it's this whole thing. And so where it is now is that he's like, well, I got to find the resistance fighters and, and join them. And they're like, well, there's no resistance fighters.
Numbskull. It's over.
Everybody's literally who was trying to fight the Nazis.
How brain dead are you?
Yeah, let's go.
Like, everybody who's trying to fight the Nazis is in prison. Like, there's nobody. Yeah. And so that launches off the next set of events of they take you to Berlin where you can get to this, and that's where I'm at now, of going into this prison to try to free some of the resistance fighters. And then all that kind of opens. So the whole thing with the fortress and all that takes place. And then after you complete that level or those levels is when it shows like Wolfenstein, the New Order, the title card and all that stuff.
Okay.
But it was still that whole thing. And then it goes into the cinematics with the insane asylum, or with not the insane asylum, but just the hospital. And so that it's just, I assumed that this took place all in like the 1940s. And so that was why I picked this one, because it was very recent for me playing it. Literally just played this like 2 days ago. But then also because I was like, holy shit, I did not expect the time jump.
What a twist.
Yeah.
What a twist.
Yeah, I didn't expect that at all. And so that's why I picked that as a fun. But so far, the game is awesome. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty
that
cool
was a pretty fun twist for me to discover.
Well, mine is not even as cool as either of those, and it has nothing to do with a hospital, so I'll just breeze through it real quick. You'll know this one, the opening of BioShock Infinite.
I was going to say, if you don't do BioShock Infinite, I would be surprised.
Because
fantastic
that is
opening.
Such a good opening. So for starters, if you had played the first game, you would know that in the very first game, it kicks off by you are in a plane that's crashing. Mm-hmm. You crash into the ocean. Yeah. You wash up at night in the rain to this tower out in the middle of nowhere. And the entire game starts by you going down into the tower to the world of Rapture.
That's right.
Well, that was in 2007 when the first BioShock game came out. Flash forward 7 years to 2014 when BioShock Infinite comes out. The whole second game took place in Rapture. You never left.
Yeah.
And then here you are again. You just kind of are thrown into the game. You, in first person, are sitting on a tiny little rowboat. It's night. It's raining. You're in the ocean again, just like the first game. And you're like looking in this box. It's got a couple of mementos in it, but in front of you are the two people rowing the boat, and it's the Lutece twins.
Yeah.
I call them the Luteccis because it's the Italian pronunciation. That's what I want to do. So the Luteccis are there, and they're like having this nonsensical conversation. They're kind of just bantering with each other. You're not really paying attention to them. But if you are, yes. So then eventually you kind of look up from what you're looking at in your box and you see right kind of in front of you, it looks like the exact same tower. It's not, it's a lighthouse.
You're like, damn it.
But the entire
going back.
The entire feeling is very much like, oh, it's a return.
Yeah.
Like you feel like you're returning to Rapture again, except you're really not. It's a tiny little island in this lighthouse, and they just kind of throw you up onto the dock and they're like, okay, see you later. And they just row back out into the distance. And I sat there and stared at their boat for about 10 solid minutes until it finally disappeared into the distance. Yeah, they take forever. Like, you don't have to, but I wanted to. I wanted to be like, how long can you sit here until their boat finally disappears? That was just me. But so the entire opening sequence is you're just kind of thrown onto this island. You go inside the lighthouse, and it's very dark. Mm-hmm. There's nobody in there. It's quiet, but there's music playing in the background, kind of like this jazzy sort of...
Which is creepy more than fun.
No, it's more like this kind of big band music in the background, and you're like...
the music of BioShock has always been unsettling.
And it's got to be that strange contrast, too.
And when you first walk in, like kind of the central pillar of the lighthouse, there's like... there's something written on it, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. As you go up, there's writing.
Yeah. There's writing as you go up for every floor.
Yeah.
And there's about 3 to 4 floors of this lighthouse. And as you go further up, you find more disturbing stuff. Like you find evidence that things have been misplaced.
Yeah.
I think you find a dead guy.
I think you do.
There's
I
a
think
guy
there's a
that's like
bloody
tied up in a
print
chair
somewhere.
and he's been like, he's had his brains blown out.
Yeah.
There's blood
Damn.
all over the
Very
place.
gory.
And as you keep going up, there are bloody prints on the wall. And you're like, what the bejesus is happening? There's lightning outside. So you're like, this is so scary. I don't like it. And then you get to the top of the lighthouse and there's this door with like this funny little mechanism on it where you have to enter in certain symbols, correct?
Yeah.
To get the door to open up. And when you walk into where the lighthouse light should actually be, it's like the light chamber, there's a chair there. And you're like, I don't know about this. And what makes it even creepier is that when you opened the door and kind of set things off, suddenly there's this blaring, what sounds like a siren, but it's all encompassing and it's coming from the air. And like the sky starts flashing glowing red and you're like, holy shit, stuff's going
aliens
down.
are coming.
It kind of felt, I was like, is this aliens? Bioshock is taking a turn. But no, so you eventually sit in the chair, which turns out to be this pod that just kind of comes up around you. The chair locks you in.
Yeah.
Very much like the first game.
And you're like
when
not happy about it. You're
No,
like,
you are not. You're like,
wouldn't be.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
You are, and like the chair even tips you forward so that your guns fall out of your pockets and you're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And then it kind of flips you back, pa-chow, launches you into space. And you're just like, holy shit, what is happening? So you're freaking out and all you can see is like this small window out and it's dark, 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 dark. And then you hit the cloud line. And then,
beautiful.
Welcome to Columbia.
Yeah, and it's
And,
super
it's
peaceful
beautiful.
and calm.
Like you really get the sense that you've started floating as opposed to accelerating, and you're just floating in your little pod gently downward over this gorgeous scene.
Yeah.
You're just like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And you land in just, I guess, this little holding area, and your cuffs kind of come off. You come out of your pod, and you're in what feels like a church. Like it's this very solemn scene, like the music is kind of more like an old style organ, and you're just sort of walking through, and you come to this chamber with all these almost paths of water. And there are people in plain white robes
Candles.
solemnly walking through. There's candles everywhere. And at the end, there's a preacher. And you know he's a preacher because he's talking about blasphemy and all that stuff and sinners. And then he goes to you and he's like, sinner!
Yeah, like everyone's listening to him talk and he picks you out.
Yeah, he picks you out and he's like, sinner!
Yeah.
Do you have it in you to wash away the past? Or something to that extent. And you're like, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
What I do.
And eventually he kind of forcibly baptizes
It's a little
you.
bit, like it's not like
it's
a
like,
fun
it's very
moment.
much something is off.
Yeah,
Like, you're
it's
very
like,
suspicious
is he
of
killing
this
me or
guy.
baptizing
He
me?
really kind of looks like an evil dude.
Yeah.
He's baptizing you, but he's basically drowning you, and you're
Shit.
like, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
And then like you come up and he's like, oh, I don't think we got all the sin.
Yeah,
And
does it
like,
again.
puts
Damn.
you back
Yeah.
in. And you kind of like have this blackout moment, I guess, but then you come out on the other side of this chamber and you're in Columbia. And there's all the people in white robes sitting around like reciting verses from their crazy religion.
Statues of
There's the
George
statues of George
Washington.
Washington, Ben Franklin, and I think Thomas Jefferson, right?
I believe so.
And you're just like, what the fuck
Like
is
gods.
happening
There's like
here?
a credo
Yes.
written
Oh
underneath.
my
It's
gosh.
soup, and they're praying to him.
And it's so
And it's such
weird,
a
but
great
you're in-
world
it's
building moment.
excellent,
It's like,
'cause,
this
you
is the
come out
world.
in this beautiful rose garden, but like
Yeah.
everything feels off, and you're just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
That entire sequence is gold.
Yeah,
It is
it's-
a gold
it sets the
opening.
tone
It's
very
one
well.
of the best ones.
Yeah.
So really that kind of is the opener, because after you exit that main holding chamber, you really kind of just are in Columbia, and that's where the game starts. But all of the start leading up to that is just phenomenal.
Really
Nice.
Everything about it is
I love
perfect.
I need to finish the Bioshock.
Bioshock.
You finished it.
I am working on it.
Oh, you gotta do the ending. You
Oh my
gotta do-
God.
I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, it's like one of the only games. It's like you gotta finish.
We'll
it
talk
to
about
do
it
the
when I
ending.
get there.
I mean, understandably, you had Zelda come up in the middle of Breath of the Wild,
yeah.
so I mean,
Have a
you
bunch of
had a
other
reason
stuff.
to get sidetracked with
Yeah,
it, but
yeah.
I mean, it's been months.
Yeah, so I'll
Get on,
so you should
work
finish it
on
up.
it.
Awesome. That sounds
So,
awesome.
those are our openers.
Those are
Openers.
our game openers.
Top 5 deaths.
Top 5. Number 1. But Okay, so before we get going into all these things, so obviously if you have any of these favorite openers of your games, like what are your favorite games and how do they start off? Let us know by sending us an email to teamchatpodcast@gmail.com or posting about it on our Facebook, Twitter, or replying in the comments to our YouTube page. Before we go, we do have a song contest for this week, and the hint is given to us by Dylan Biles, winner of last week. His hint is, I don't know why I turned my phone off, but his hint is Atlas shrugged and then tried to kick my ass.
I like it.
Atlas shrugged.
Yeah, act surprised.
Yeah.
Atlas shrugged and then tried to kick my ass.
All right.
All right. So if this is your first time taking place in the song contest, the contest goes live Wednesday, 9 a.m., the day after this episode goes live. First person to comment or reply to the posts about the contest win at 9 a.m. And with the correct answer, wins the contest, and we'll get to submit a song and hint for us for a future episode. So stick around to after the close of this episode to hear the hint, to hear the actual song segment from Dylan. But with that, that concludes this episode of Team Chat Podcast. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan.
Fare thee well.
And to my left, Zachary Parks.
Adios.
We'll see you all next time. Stick around for the song.